Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Comedy Pinata, live from Zanies in Nashville. Joined this week by, what would you say, DC comic? Maryland
DC,
comic?
Baltimore, yeah.
Baltimore?
Yeah.
We've worked together. I've had the pleasure of having this gentleman feature for me at the DC Improv many times, and some fun nights out on the town with him. Josh Kuderna. Josh, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Next to Colin Jost, I'd say best head of hair in comedy.
Hey, please, thank you. Thank you. You know, that's what I want to be known for, not jokes.
Yeah.
I figured this pinata will just look at my headshots and just talk about my different haircuts that I've
Well, we're
had.
just going to ask Taylor to just crop in right here and go up top and maybe
We'll have this
superimpose lips right there so it looks like a preceding hairline.
I'll just put this up to the mic.
Yeah,
exactly.
But you got started in Maryland, is that correct?
Yeah, so I'm from Maryland, and then I moved to Baltimore after I went to college in Baltimore, got a job in Baltimore, and then started stand-up there. And then DC is just such a good scene and it's about an hour from Baltimore.
Sure.
So I'd pop down there. Of course, they have the DC Improv, which is where we met. So
Of course.
yeah. So I was down there quite a bit. So people are like, how's Baltimore versus DC? And like, I rep Baltimore. I love Baltimore, but the comedy scene in DC is like so good, way better.
Well, I mean, obviously Chappelle came from there. I think Birbiglia came out of DC. Mulaney, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because he went to Georgetown.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Nick Kroll, too.
Didn't Gaffigan maybe?
I don't know.
Or am I-
Gaffigan. I know. Who else? Donnell Rawlings from DC. And then who else?
Tony Woods.
Tony Woods. Yeah,
Tony Woods.
yeah.
But obviously you get to work at one of every comic, they'd say the top 3 clubs in the country is
Yeah.
probably the DC Improv.
Exactly.
And when you're there and you're in that, look, the green room sucks. The green room is something left to be desired, but that's part of the aesthetic.
You're going to get booked there regardless, so it's a great green room for me. I love it. Allison, if you're watching, I wouldn't change a thing.
I do miss the old hallway that you would have to take,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool because
Yes.
you're ramping up into it. But it's a really tight green room. That's my point.
Yes. Yeah.
It
And
does suck. Look, the green room kind of sucks. I'm not gonna say it doesn't because it's very tight.
Can we just crop my hair again so I'm not in it?
But do you hear that repeatedly when you're in the club and you know the headliners come in and do you hear it over and over again that just like I love this club, I love being here?
Yeah, I mean, and it's to the point where you'd think that they're just blowing smoke too. But
Sure.
I think, you know, like people like you that are on the road most weekends out of the year, like
Yeah.
you know what's a good club. And I don't think you would say that if it wasn't true.
Yeah.
So yeah, you hear it a good bit that they're like, no, this is one of the best clubs in the country.
So the club, obviously, some of you folks have never been to the DC Improv, but the DC Improv is a throwback. It's one of the clubs that's been around since the 80s, right? So it has that, it's got good comedy bones, but it's also very, very intimate, low ceilings,
Yep.
traps the laughter.
Yep.
The stage, like you're almost kind of like the head, you know, when you're performing, you're right there.
Yeah.
Elevated above it. Nice, tight, but I think what makes the shows are always great because of that. The crowds are obviously very educated and pretty smart. But I think what makes a club truly a great experience for comedians is the staff
Yes.
and the ownership.
Absolutely.
And Allison is one of the best owners
Yep.
in the biz. And then you have Luis behind the bar, who
Yep.
is
The man.
one of the greatest bartenders.
Yes.
It's just a good vibe in there.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it wouldn't be a good vibe if it comes from the top, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if like Allison and Antoine were not good at it, I feel like the rest would crumble below. But
Sure.
everybody's so good. Everybody's
I forgot
so
to mention
nice.
Antoine.
Yeah.
And we did the goddamn Comedy Jam. It was his birthday there.
Dude, that was so fun.
The 930 Club is what it's called, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is also one of the best like music venues I think in the country. Steve treats me like a Make-A-Wish kid. I'm waiting to find out that I have cancer because he keeps anytime he comes to town, he's like, "You want to do this cool thing?" And I'm like, do I have cancer? Like I came
Well,
to
yeah, we
Nashville,
did
you're
the-
like, "Do the podcast." I'm like, "Okay."
But the 930 Club, I guess it's a very historic. I'm not as versed in
Yeah.
DC, but Josh Adammeyer said, this is my dream.
Yes.
Like, this is where I get to live out my
Yeah,
fantasy.
because I grew up in that area. I literally went to that club since I was 14, and it's the same thing where you go to the 930 Club that you hear at the DC Improv that this is one of the best clubs in the country.
Sure, yeah.
So like the Foo Fighters and stuff, like they would do practice shows there, like even to this day. I mean,
wow.
Before Taylor passed, but everybody loved that club, and it always sounded so good. So yeah, the first time I went to that club, I was 14 to see Slipknot. And then I ended up on stage with you singing a Killer song.
That's right, yeah.
Which I think full circle,
That's how it works out. You go to see Slipknot, and then it's like, all right, let's hear something a little softer.
A little different.
Yeah.
Possibly from a Mormon rock band. I don't know.
That's right, yeah. Roots out of Vegas, but yeah, I think maybe 2 of them are Mormons. But but before we get into this,
awesome.
we got to thank our sponsor, SueTheCollector.com. Did you know car repossession is on the rise? Do you know you have every right to stop a repo guy from taking your car? Consumers have broad rights to stop a car repossession from happening, and that is where the law firm Sue the Collector can help you. If your car has been is about to be repossessed, or your car was repossessed, and you verbally told them to stop and leave your car alone, you're physically hurt or injured by the repo agent, or they took the wrong car altogether, you may have a case. The attorneys Sue the Collector. They specialize in wrongful car repossession and can help you or your loved one. If you or your loved one were injured, lost valuables, or wrongfully had your car repossessed, call us now at 1-877-BAD-REPO, 1-877-BAD-REPO. Again, 1-877-BAD-REPO. Again, thank you, SueTheCollector.com, for sponsoring us. There are some snide little comments sometimes you see, like, oh, do you have to do the Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Because they pay for the show.
That's right.
If they don't pay for the show, we don't get to do the show. And by the way, you that's bitching about it, you're watching this shit for free. So shut the fuck up. Here we go, comic number 1.
Let's go.
You've seen this. Any initial thoughts on Kevin Hart?
What
are your first thoughts when you think of Kevin Hart?
Is he, he's a newer comic?
I hope he makes it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm rooting for this guy.
I just saw him last week at the Comedy Cellar. I roll in. Estee's there, the famed owner and booker of the Comedy Cellar. And she's in a booth with Chris Rock, Kevin Hart, Keith Robinson. And I hadn't seen Kevin. The last time I saw Kevin, he was hosting SNL.
Okay.
So I roll in. And when I started in 97, he was starting too.
Oh, wow.
So we were kind of like these young, hungry guys going through the ropes. And it's as though time never passes. Like you run into somebody like him and you're like, hey, man. And
What's
then
up,
he
Kev?
just starts shitting on you right away and making you part of a joke that you have no idea what's going on. But with Keith Robinson and obviously Chris Rock, I'll always kiss the ring. He's one of my favorites. But
No doubt.
Kev was a grinder from the day he got to New York City. I remember he used to get in his car and drive from Philly, and he would drive to every single club, and he would ask the managers, hey, you got room for me? And they either say yes or no, and if they said no, he'd go, all right, I'll check back in tomorrow.
Peace. I'll be
Get back in his car, and
Yeah.
he'd make the rounds. And that's what he just did every night. He was grinding. So when I see him so successful in doing Capital One commercials, documentaries, feature films, all the stuff on webs, it's just like, it's like, my God, any one of those is a torture, but his bandwidth and work ethic, I think, is bar none one of the most inspiring things I saw when I was a younger comic coming up. So I'm not surprised to see his success, and he's also one of those guys that's so likable.
Right. I mean, yeah, he's got such a good, warm vibe about him. And then also, I don't think you make it to that level unless you have a motor. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to sell out a stadium or whatever he did for that one show.
Yeah, well,
if you're just like, I'll take work if it comes to me.
This obviously is at Caroline's Comedy Club.
Yeah.
And see how young he is. So let's watch a little Kevin Hart here and see what's about to unfold here.
Do you have headphones that don't mess up my hair?
And they're not the only people that's crazy. Me, myself, I think dirty people might be some of the craziest people out there, too. Because you have to be some kind of crazy, a mental person, just to decide at some point in your life to be dirty, That's a crazy decision, How does something like that go down? Would you just wake up one morning mad? I ain't washing my ass no more! And then you go back to sleep, That's it, Because that's not something that you can just forget to do, You can't keep saying, I forgot to wash my ass again. That's good for the first couple days, but 3 weeks later, you still saying the same thing to your friends. They're going to start to question you. That's been going on for 3 weeks. People are crazy, man. Everybody wants a tattoo now. Everybody needs a tattoo. I have no problem with tattoos. I feel that if you're going to get a tattoo, get something that you know what it says. Everybody wants a Chinese tattoo now. For what? You don't know what it really says. You walking around thinking you got black power or something on your head. Turn out you go into a Chinese store, you got salt, pepper, ketchup written across your face. And you don't know the homes start laughing. Come here. Look at this on salt, pepper, ketchup right there. No, this ain't black power. No trouble, salt, pepper, ketchup. Be careful. Do things that we know we were doing, man. Stop doing crazy stuff. You know what's funny in the gym, though? Y'all see those people in the gym that are too strong? Y'all see somebody in the gym that's too strong? Got too many muscles, you know? I saw this one guy in the gym. He had too many muscles. I had to tell him. I said, that's enough. God damn, don't you lift nothing else? When you gonna put that muscle? Huh? And he talking about something, no, I got this soft spot behind my ear. Do me a favor, put 345 pounds on the back of my neck so I can go in and lift that up. And I went to go get it, and I looked at him in the face. That was the midget that had Rodney. Hey, y'all been a great call. My name is Kevin Hart.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, I'm watching this, and I'm almost thinking, because there were transitions in this.
Yes.
I'm thinking he made this tape of Caroline's for like college submissions.
Gotcha.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm not just watching the material. Obviously,
Right.
I am.
Yeah.
But I'm going, what's the purpose behind this? Because there's jump cuts in this, and it's at Caroline's. And at the time,
Yeah.
you as a young comic, you would go to Caroline's to make submission tapes for SNL or a late night talk show. And the way this is packaged together, I'm wondering if he was putting this together for submissions to clubs. But it looks to me almost like a college submission tape is what he was.
Gotcha. Yeah, kind of
together.
saying like, yeah, I can do some stories, some impressions. I got this.
Yeah.
We can go big at the end as well. But also with that impression, I don't know if that didn't age well. I don't know if he's going to host the Oscars any day with that out there. You know?
Couldn't do that these days, but
No.
It's still funny to me.
Oh, my
I
God.
laugh. I think it's hilarious.
Yes.
But I agree with you. Yeah, the minute you watch that, you go, ugh, you don't
But
know
it's
if you can get away
also
with that.
the audience is dying laughing though. Like that's
Yeah.
what it was too at the time.
It's got to be late 90s, but
Yeah.
this is what I think when I watch that. I'd seen this Paul Newman documentary recently, and he was discussing, it's called The Last Movie Stars. It's about him and Joanne Woodward. And he's discussing, he came up in a class with James Dean and Marlon Brando and Karl Malden and him, right? And we all know Paul Newman as being Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid and, you know, the hustler. But this really goes into the beginning of his career. And this is all coming to a point here very shortly. But the beginning of his career, he was
Kevin
always...
Hart is going to play Paul Newman in a
yeah.
biopic.
But he was kind of like cast off as like a cheaper man's version of James Dean at the time.
Gotcha.
And he had to get to his own, much like comics, we've got to discover our voice, right? And he was discussing how like Brando and James Dean were so authentic. They knew who they were immediately at the actor studio. And I was thinking about this recently with a friend of mine, somebody like Sebastian, Jim Norton, Bill Burr. When I was starting off and I first met Sebastian at the store, he is today what he was then.
Right.
Bill Burr is today what he was at Dangerfields in front of 15 people.
Yeah.
You know, and Jim Norton is today what he was. These are three comics I really, really respect because they had their authenticity.
Yeah.
They knew their voice.
Right.
And I felt like I was always a decent comic, good comic, and it's only until the last 5 years, I've been doing this 25 years, it's only until like 20 years, I finally found like my authentic self on stage.
Interesting.
And it took so long to get there. It took so long to mature as a comic. I always had brief flashes of it, but now I feel the most comfortable.
Right.
And with Paul Newman, it took him, James Dean died in that car crash, and then he took over the role. And I mean, it's so fitting. Somebody up there likes me. And he took over the role, and that's what kind of launched him.
Gotcha.
And then slowly he started discovering his authentic self. And
Right.
I think any artist has that, whether you're a poet, whether you're, you know, a chef, everybody's got to discover, you know, their authentic self, I guess.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it seems like Kevin always, I mean, if you watch that now, you can definitely see that same style. He still has that to this day.
That's
Like,
right.
That's like that same energy, the act outs, all that stuff. It's
The
all
cadence,
right
everything.
there.
When
Yeah.
he's talking about, you know, I'm just not going to be clean anymore. I'm just going to be dirty, making that decision. I was watching that going, he could do that bit now. He could do that bit now, and obviously it would be so much better.
Yes.
But he could do that bit now because the way he's expressing it is his version of it.
Yes. Yeah.
And
yeah.
even the Chinese tattoo, I've heard that joke 1,000 times.
Sure,
From
sure.
from 1,000 different comics back in the day when that was fashionable.
Right.
And again, Kevin puts his own stamp on it, you know? So
Yeah.
everybody's got a premise, but it's like, well, Kevin Hart's voicing this premise.
Totally. Did you know, was there something that you were gunning for in the beginning? Like you're saying in the last 5 years, you've kind of figured out what your
Yeah.
Steve Byrne's lane is. Did you have an idea of where you wanted to go? Or was it just be funny?
I think it was experimenting and you know, when I was younger, I was a lot more physical and energetic. And
Yeah.
I was selling the joke. I wasn't a
Right.
craftsman by any means with my wording of the jokes.
Yeah.
And then the second one, I was kind of getting into. Just thinking about my own career via specials. But the second one was, I think there were good premises in there, but I wasn't mature enough to tackle the subject matter
Right. Or like thoroughly get all the meat off the bone.
Yeah, I
of
wasn't
that
as
premise.
good.
Right.
as the setups were. The setups were a little more intricate and heavier than I could handle at the time. There's still some good jokes in it.
Yeah.
And then the third, I got a little dark, experimenting with that, going a little darker and going to subject matter that I was like, this is outside my boundaries. I'm going to see if I can get away with this. And some of it I did, and some of it I didn't.
Right.
And then the last one I did, Tell the Damn Joke. Again, it was good. There were some serviceable jokes in there. There's jokes in there that truly, like, I'm proud of. I'm like, that's a good joke.
Yeah.
But the overall arc of the hour and the representation of who that person is in that hour, I'm like, is that the best representation? Did it all coalesce for me there as a performer from A to Z?
Yeah.
And I just haven't hit it out of the park yet. And so I think that these last 5 years building up to this next hour,
Yeah.
everything I've done has put me in a position to be like, all right, this I feel is the best work.
Yeah,
because
it's all culminated to that.
yeah, but it's also like it's under the umbrella of a talk show. So I've had to work on one-liners. So it's fun to work on the cadence of like a Carson or Bob Hope delivery.
Yeah.
Then the panel portion of the late night talk show is storytelling. So I force myself to tell stories.
Right.
And get more personal. And then third aspect is traditional stand-up. And that's where it all kind of like really came together. And there's an arc in it, whatever. But
Yeah.
I just forced myself to do it. But how long have you been doing it now?
This will be, I think this is year 9 for me, I think.
Okay,
With
so-
2020 kind of being the lost year a little bit.
Mark Maron told me when I first started, he says it takes 10 years to become an overnight success in comedy. And I remember telling him, such a young, cocky like kid, as we all, in New York, I go, I'll do it in 5.
I'm sure Marin loved hearing that.
Oh yeah, him especially. Him especially.
And he was like, fuck this
And
guy
now I almost
forever.
want to text him and go, you told me that when I was 5 years in, or like 3 years in.
Yeah.
And now I want to tell you, it took me twice the time
Yes.
to get there.
Yeah, yeah.
And some people's journey just takes a little bit longer. I've done things along the way, but
Absolutely.
it just, for me, the maturity of understanding what are the
Yeah.
best assets, but force myself to use the different skill sets of one-liners and storytelling,
Totally.
traditional stand-up, and even crowd work. When I'm here at Zanies, I don't do any material here
Yeah.
because I've been protective of my hour, so I just do crowd work, and that's a muscle, too.
Oh, for sure. I mean, in that muscle of yours, I would say, like a Kevin Hart, you're ripped in that sense. Because, I mean, I've seen it, because I think the first time we did a show was February of 2020. We didn't even know what was going to happen.
Oh, that's right. And
Yeah.
this was when the club was only at 25% capacity.
No,
Wasn't it?
It was before. So then we linked up, I think, in 2021.
Oh, that's right,
And then
yeah.
we're at the DC Improv where there were 75 people, and it was weird, but it was fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, seeing you do crowd work, I mean, seeing this hour come together is so great. Like seeing it
Oh,
in
thank you.
different arenas too, versus like the DC Improv versus a theater also in DC and doing
Sure.
one-liners about Joe Biden, where people are like liberal and uptight about that
Yeah.
stuff, and they're like, okay, that is funny. You know what I mean? Like
You hope
seeing
so, yeah.
How sharp that stuff is, but the crowd work is so good. That fucking there was like a. What was it, like a 10-year-old boy in the front row
Oh,
of
God,
the
yeah.
last show?
Yeah, that's right.
And
yeah.
you just dined out on that, and that was great.
It was like, all right, let's make a meal of this. But
Yeah.
I think if you force yourself, when I was in New York City, I'd do 6 or 7 spots a night.
Uh-huh.
I would force myself to take one of those spots and just do crowd work because I
Yeah.
knew it was a muscle. But now I'm so well versed with it that anything that happens on stage,
Yeah.
I'm prepared for it. If somebody drops a glass, if somebody yells something, if the fire alarm goes off, all these situations have happened to me.
Yeah.
And now I'm totally prepared.
Yeah.
As opposed to, and this is not a knock, but like, let's say you're Jeselnik, and it's almost like when I watch him at the store, it's like there's one speed, right? Mm-hmm. Mike's here, dry delivery. Jokes are really well crafted, obviously
course,
one of the
yeah.
best. But
Yeah.
I don't see him being hired for a corporate and then, 8 different things happening and the shit hitting the fan,
Right,
and him
or-
recalibrating and adjusting real quick, because
Yeah.
part of being a great comic, I think, is also putting yourself in situations where I also have to entertain.
Yeah, and also kind of reading the room as well, too. Where
Yeah.
it's like, if something happens, like, I'm not just going to ignore it. And I'll be like, okay, now here's the rest of my bits, which makes the crowd feel weird as well, too. Like, did he not hear the thing that just happened?
You have to address it,
Yeah.
because then you lose credibility in the room.
I love that stuff, too, because most of the time people, if they yell stuff out, they're not looking to, like, heckle. They're
Right.
usually just excited or just drunk, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it also brings the room together, too, where they're like, oh, this guy's an idiot, or this lady's just yelling out something weird.
Sure.
And so it kind of brings the room together as well. So I love that stuff. Like, I started in improv, so I look
Oh, that's great.
I look forward to that stuff.
Well, let's get into number 2 here. Let's
do
see.
it.
Any initial thoughts? Once again, when I don't know who I ever pick out. Here we go. Oh, this is like a heavy hitter episode. This is Tom Segura. Oh, so I think what the theme is here is we're having great comics and we're seeing their early beginnings, because even though you're 10 years in,
Yeah.
still fresh to the scene,
Yep.
and getting your name out there. So this is Tom Segura. Any initial thoughts on Tom Segura?
I love Tom. I think he is so funny. I heard about him through Rogan, and then I
Yeah.
think he was one of the early Netflix specials too. Like,
Yeah.
he had a special, and I checked it out, and because it was like, oh, I've heard of this guy, love comedy, I want to see it, and he killed me. His
Yeah.
bit about Steven Seagal as like a sheriff. Have you seen that before?
Yeah, yeah.
That killed me, dude. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's just like, imagine you're a sheriff. Like, you take your job pretty seriously, and like, we brought somebody in to train you today, and you're like, oh wow, is this Special Forces, FBI? And in comes in fat, bloated Steven Seagal. He's like, what you do is you just kind of kick him. And ever since then, I've been a huge fan, and he seems like a good dude too. Like, good to
Very nice
comics and
guy.
stuff.
Great dude. Yeah, he was kind of new to the scene in LA when at least in terms of me, because I'm always slower to like hear about people that are starting to do well. And
Yeah.
and then I watched a special, and he had this cold open where he was like, "This is my city, this is my town," and you're going through and the sun and the
Yes.
streets and everything, and he's
Yeah.
in a pool hall, and these guys are like, "Fuck you, motherfucker!" He's like, "Man, this is my hit." And it was
Like,
just
"All
like,
right, what's up?"
that is the greatest cold open
Yes.
I'd ever seen to a stand-up special.
Yeah.
And I think maybe next to Eddie Murphy Raw, where he's a little kid and he's entertaining the family, like those are the only 2 cold opens I could think of that like genuinely made me laugh. And I was like, if that's setting the tone, I'm in for
Yes.
it. And it did set the tone. And then I loved the special, and then I started seeing him all the time at the Comedy Store and love watching him.
Yeah, it also makes fun of, because I'm sure, like you're saying too, if you've been in the game 25 years and you do get your special and you're like, this is my moment, and you kind of want a serious opening, you know what I mean? To be
Yeah.
like, all the shit that I've been through, and now I'm doing this for my, you know what I mean? And then he's
Yeah.
like, but no, you should be funny, you know? Like,
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And you're kind of the butt of the joke. You should be the butt of the joke versus like, I
Yes.
fucking did it, I'm the man.
And he was, and he is, and obviously killing it now. So let's
Yep.
watch a little early Tom Segura.
Oh, thank you.
Can you turn it up a
Yes.
bit, bud?
I'm excited to be here because I just moved to downtown Los Angeles, and I don't know if you're familiar with downtown LA, but it's exactly like wherever you live. If wherever you live is jail.
It's a great line.
It's the only place I've ever used the expression, you know you're bleeding, right? Never said that before. A lot of needles, no sewing factory. Who's with me? Anybody? No? There's a lot of interesting people downtown. My favorite neighbors are the ones that have tattoos on their face. Yes. I like a tattoo on the face. Tattoo on the face says, hey, why tap dance when we can tango? Doesn't it? You tattoo your face, you're basically saying, hey world, I'm going to go ahead and exchange any and all possibilities of normal human interaction for the gift of instilling paralyzing fear in anyone that looks in my direction. Now, that might sound like a piss-poor trade-off to you, but how about I stab you in the throat, because I don't really care, because I'm completely crazy, and that's why I have a crying clown tattooed on my face. Thank you. Yeah. It's a good look. I spent today watching a show called How Winning the Lottery Changes Your Life. It was offensive and boring. Offensive in that these people only credit is that they had $1 left over after they bought a 64-ounce soda and 6 servings of nachos and cheese. Boring in that they all did the same thing. All bought a big house, cars, quit their job. Yeah, all boring. Except for the guy that won the biggest lottery ever. $350 million. That's a lot of money. And he took pride in the fact that he never changed. Like he still went to work every day, he still bought his own groceries, and he still didn't have any teeth. What? Yeah. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if I had $350 million, I'd be buying other people's teeth. You know? I'd just walk down the streets and be like, hey, smile, want some teeth? It's on me. Speaking as a guy with a full set of chompers, I can tell you that having teeth is totally awesome. And if you have $15, you should use them as a down payment for teeth. Not only will you get to enjoy all the cuisines of the world, but you also won't look like, well, like you don't have any teeth, man.
That's great. And again, to the point earlier.
Yeah.
The voice is there.
The voice is
the
there.
cadence is there.
There's
It's
cadence.
stronger.
Yep.
The timing is better. The melodic notes of each individual are a little more emphasized because they're in their skin. But
Yeah.
you still see flashes of them today in these where not much has changed. You know?
No, I mean, honestly, he could do, I mean, besides like his living situation has changed, but like that seems like stuff he could do today too, because it's the same exact style, like you're saying, cadence, it's all there. And pretty clean for him too.
Pretty clean, yeah. But also like just fun monologues.
Yeah.
Like those are things where if you transcribe them, it's like still funny. I think like, and I've said this a few times, but it's not a knock against him. But like if you transcribe Sebastian Maniscalco's act, like, well, how's this? Where's this? It builds to a joke or a laugh. I get it, and there's some twists in there, but he sells every joke.
Yeah, yeah. Because if reading it, you're like, at the grocery store? Question mark. You know,
right.
You're like, aren't you embarrassed?
Yeah. If his face was, you know. On the keyboard, it's like, oh, you get it. Just a what? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
But that's, again, another example. I think we really stated it earlier with Kevin. But I also, what I appreciate about Tom, I've said this before, is like about Tom and Christina, is that they have this popular podcast. They work together. Neither of them are lifting dead weight.
No.
They're equally as funny, equally as talented.
Yep.
And then they could split off and be equally as successful, which is fucking disgusting. It makes me sick to my stomach how talented that family is. But God bless them.
For real. Yeah, I mean, they're both killing it right now.
Yeah.
Killing it. Yeah, and Tom is just so funny, and he's always been funny. Like,
yeah. And one of my favorite stories, when I was doing an opening act, Bert's mentioned this on the podcast or whatever. I was going to cast Bert. He didn't get back to me. I got Segura. Segura took the role. When we're filming the role of the scene where Jimmy O Yang ends up in a trailer park under the trailer, which all that stuff actually happened to me, Tom was filming that scene that night, and Christina was due. So she was at the hospital, and Tom's like, just letting you know, I might have to leave because my child might be born. I was like, oh my God. And I was like, of course. Well, and then it's just like, all right, let's get this over. Let's burn through it. So remember that scene. So anytime we're in the woods, I'm thinking of 1,000 other things But the one thing I'm always thinking of is, man, I can't believe we dodged that bullet. Like, thank God everybody was happy and healthy, but it didn't happen that night.
For real. So is that pressure on you, though? You're like, man, I hope he nails this on the first take so he
Let's
can get out of here.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, if he gives a shitty take, you don't want to be like, can you do that again? I know you got to get
But
out
he
of here.
improv'd a lot on that scene. He pulled up with the cop and he had the thing on him. And there were so many outtakes we couldn't use, but they were hilarious. But love Tom Segura, absolutely, and continued success to him.
Yeah.
Again, one of those guys that was a grinder for many years. Is due all the success he has.
No doubt.
All right, number 3. Let's see here who we got. This is Louis C.K. Okay.
All right.
Any thoughts on Louis?
Louis C.K.
Yes.
Yeah. He's one of the best.
Yeah.
I think he got involved in a little controversy a couple years ago, but
yeah, you could say that. But starting to make the rounds again, and just released a film with Joe List called 4th of July.
Yeah, it looks
independently.
really good.
Looks like he paid for everything. And I remember when I was at Caroline's, he did a doggy style joke.
Yeah.
That fucking crushed. Annihilated about the girl backing up. He's like, "Why you keep backing? You're snatching to me." And it was like the way he said it was like. It was one of the bits I remember that at the time you'd be outside sweeping up the floors and stuff, be like, holy shit, like who is that? And I'd run in and it was always Louis doing that bit. So, okay, here we go.
He's so good, dude.
Hello?
Classic Louis
Nice
already.
to be here. How are you doing? Good. Nice to be here.
You follow
I'm
my
broke.
speed.
Anybody else broke? You ever get so broke that the bank starts charging you money for not having enough money? That's fucking broke, man. Bank called me up. They're like, "Hi, we're calling because you don't have enough money." I'm like, "I know." She's like, "Sir, you have insufficient funds." Well, that's a good way to put it, too. I agree with that. I find my funds to be grossly insufficient. Thanks for calling. Why are you mad at me? I don't understand what. How is this something I'm doing to you? She's like, "Sir, you only have $20. That's not enough. You can't only have $20. I'm like, "Look, I'm not being broke just to fuck with you. I just really don't have any money. I'm not trying to be a dick. My life is shitty." So they charged me. They charged me $15. That's how much it costs to only have $20. But here's the fucked up part. Now I only have $5. What did I pay the $15 for if I don't get to have the $20 that I paid to have? I paid the fucking money. Where's my $20? That's like going to the movies, you buy your ticket and they go, "Get the fuck out of here, go home." But I paid for the movie. No, you paid for a ticket, motherfucker. You didn't pay for a movie. You ever have negative money? That's depressing, isn't it? You look in your bank account, negative $10. That's how much I have now. Negative 10. That means I don't even have no money now. I wish I did. I wish I didn't have anything. I wish I just had nothing, but I have less than that. I don't have none. I have not 10. I can't, if it's free, I can't fucking afford it. Somebody could come up to me, "Take this, it's free." Fuck, that costs nothing. I can't afford that. That's more than I have. I gotta raise $10 to be broke. That's where I'm at. That's not good. That's bad. Apparently some of you are in the same fucking position.
That's great.
So good.
That's great. It's taking the bit to the nth degree. I mean, just digging and digging and digging and digging.
Yeah, in such a Louis way, too, where he's like, "I'm not fucking with you."
Yeah.
You know, like,
What I like about this, too, is that sometimes when you hear a comic and he's having the conversation with the bank teller, right? Mm-hmm. You're watching a stand-up perform, but he's writing dialogue.
Yes.
Like if you're writing a sketch, he just wrote the sketch.
Right.
And that's always to me like when you watch dialogue of a comic performing dialogue, you know, I'm the bank teller, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you watch the show, it's like, oh, there it is.
Yep.
That's why it was so great. And
Right.
I
Good
wasn't
point.
laughing as hard at that bit because I remember that bit so well because
Yes.
when I was a young comic, Louis was making the rounds and that was his opening.
Yeah.
And as you see, he's pulling the mic out of the mic stand. I heard that joke so many times.
Is that how he opened? Like,
Yeah,
a lot?
and
Yeah.
I think that might have been, I don't know if that was Luna Lounge back in the day, because I'm trying to remember the current. I'm like looking at it going, oh, where was this? But I heard that bit so many times.
I think I remember seeing that as a kid on Comedy Central. I think that was a part of his half hour.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. And he had that. He also had, I think he said, he's like, have you ever been so drunk that you need to hold on to the earth to not fall off of it or something?
Right, yeah.
And like, so good. I remember too that line being like, I need $10 to not be broke to get back to even.
Well, I'll tell you, Joey Lewis wrote that. Everybody's been nicking off that line. You ever been so drunk you know it's like you know
okay.
you're on the floor and it was
Maybe it was
he's an
him
old
then.
vaudeville comedian, but
Gotcha.
But there have been many takes on that, but that's not negating the brilliance of Louis. Louis is a very gifted comic.
Yeah, and it's also like kind of before he switched, I think, not being negative, but going into like obviously like his daughters and family and stuff like that, where it was like kind of more like that is a story, but it's still like observant kind of stuff, you know what I mean? So it's like kind of, you could see right before the turn, before he's kind of has that edge to him a little bit.
Yeah. But I think, you know, he's somebody that's like, all right, let me dip my toe in the water and proceed forward, and got more and more personal for sure.
Yeah.
But then through personal, you know, there's definitely a bite to his comic, like a little acidity to it. And, you know, for me personally, like I'm a comic, I think everybody has the right to say whatever you want.
Yeah.
You know, for me, when you call your daughter a cunt, it's like, you know, she's going to have an iPad, and when she's a teenager, and it's like she's going to go to school, and it's like, yes, you could tell that joke, but do you need to tell that joke? Because there's going to come a time in her 20s or 30s, she looks back and goes, I get it now.
Yeah.
I see it. But I think there are times where you've got to be a little more hyper-aware. Just for me personally, you know, I wouldn't tell that joke about my daughter when she's in high school.
Right.
I'd be like, all right, well, let's keep that on ice, and we'll break that out in her 30s.
To be fair,
whatever,
your daughter's
you know?
not a cunt, though. So, you know what I mean? You know?
She may be. I mean, you know, you never know.
Time will tell.
Yeah, time will tell.
Hey,
yeah.
she has that right.
But those are things that, like, kind of make me go, you know.
Yeah.
But we all have those. We all have opinions as comics. But,
of course, yeah.
But there's also, like, 1,000 jokes that Louis told that I don't have the brilliance to tell. That I don't have the depth or education or wherewithal to say. So, you know, I respect Louis. Okay. Fourth clip is always one of us. Not sure who it's going to be. I've been going undefeated lately because they haven't had me, so I got a bad feeling that this is going to be me. Okay, there it is. So
there he is.
So again, this is like the worst part.
Oof.
Okay. So I can tell you right now, this is the Jamison Whiskey Tour. This is circa 2004, 2005, I think. I'm on tour with Billy Gardell, Bert Kreischer, Danny Bevins, Pete Corielli, just a great group of guys. And
Patrice on this one too?
I don't think he's...
Okay.
No, Patrice was not on this, but I think this was filmed in Denver, at the Denver Improv, given the background. And I will just say this right now, to each and every camera, I apologize for the material you are about to see. Because anything younger, you always feel like, it's cringeworthy. So... fuck it.
Brutal.
Okay, this is brutal. Let's do it. Jesus Christ. If you live in this country, you're Asian. If you're female, you are sexy. Oh, God. Yeah. You live in this country, you're male and Asian, tech support. Not so sexy. Stop clapping. It ain't, I don't know why you're clapping. It ain't cool. We're just not considered, like, we don't have, like, that bad boy image. You know? We're not, like, alluring. I guess we're safe. When do women start dating Asians? After their first divorce, they're in their 30s or 40s. That's when they start dating Asian guys. Like any of you fellas here, your wife goes away, you know, your girlfriend goes away to business, like Italy, Brazil, Jamaica. You call her every night. Don't cheat on me, bitch. You're in Italy. They're pretty smooth over there. She goes to China for 6 months. You'll be all right. Just email me. You'll be all right.
So I love the jobs. There's two jobs that I want to have,
Just
but I can
email
never have.
me.
Because on one hand, the jobs are very cool. At the same time, very gay. Cool, but gay. Number one, magician.
Oh, Jesus.
Very cool. Very gay. I don't know if I could ever seriously do this for a living.
Classic Byrne.
That was uncomfortable.
Good physicality.
Number two, male cheerleader. That is a cool job. You're always looking up girls' skirts, holding by their asses. Yummy. Then it's kind of gay. There's a trade-off. You have to do this.
Oh, Steven.
You nailed those moves,
It's like, I'll
though.
do this shit all day to look up girls' skirts and hang out with them. That is where I draw the line. I ruin romantic situations. This girl took me out the other day. She goes, leave Saturday to me. It's special. It's a surprise. Oh, okay. You know where she took me? The woods. I was like, you cheap bitch. Take me to the goddamn woods. Well, we had to walk through the woods, actually. Took me to a field, brought a blanket, laid it down, pointing to constellations, crickets chirping, stars. It was gorgeous. She said, that's Orion. That's Gemini. I'm like, that's the moon. She's telling me the history of the gods and everything. I'm quiet. She goes, you know, you're kind of quiet. What's going on in your head? You know, I contributed to the conversation. That's what I said. I was wondering if a man in a hockey mask with a chainsaw comes out of the woods running towards us. Where do we go? Why the would you say something like that? Why need to know where to run? I don't see a Best Buy sign. I don't see anything right now. I need to know where to go because you dragged my ass here. You're starting to scare me. You're scaring me now because you're scared, okay? Let's get the out of here. Let's go, please, because I was wondering when I had my head down if there was a machete that came down, could he take off both our heads or just one? Then a little pea came out right there, so I'd love to get the out of here.
Okay.
I loved it.
Oh, Jesus
I
Christ.
loved it. I think we're ending strong.
No.
A lot of potential in that young man.
Oh, see, that's the difference, though, I think, is like you watch like Segura, you watch Kevin.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's them.
Yeah.
That's them. This is like a comic with half-baked premises. Like the premises are just not, they're not executed well. You know, they're like, it's like, okay, I get it. Like being in the woods, it's romantic. And that, it's like, that's a good premise.
Yeah.
The magician one, it's like, okay, that's a physical bit. The first one, it's just not funny. It's not good. I'm like, I think it's shitty. I'm watching myself just shit. That's bad.
That's brutal. Have you had to do this yet on the show? Watch your own clip?
A handful of times, but some of the newer stuff is easier to watch, but that's fucking bad. I don't know how that kid got work, to be honest with you. I'm like, wow, he was on that tour?
He's on the Jamison tour.
Yeah, like even the response sounds muted.
But you're getting laughs, though. You got an applause break right in the beginning.
Yeah, but it's still like,
yeah. But still.
it's fucking awful.
Yeah. But
I think that's bad. If I didn't know that was me, and I was watching that, like, if I fell and hit my head on the sidewalk and I watched it, I was like, oh my God, this is that. You're telling me that person does that professionally?
Professionally, yeah.
Yeah.
Jamison paid that? No, I mean, but I can see where you're at now, like there versus where you're at now, like the physicality and stuff. You don't do as much of that.
No.
But like also like some of the silly stuff in the voices, I think you definitely
Voices lost that. Physicality lost it.
Yeah.
The duality. Even like when you're watching Louis have a conversation as the bank teller and him.
Yeah.
There's that, and then you're listening to me have a conversation with a girl. It's like the writing's not good.
It's not good. I like the premise. I will say the machete thing. It does like take a little bit of a right turn there.
Yeah. The whole thing it should take a fucking U-turn and go back to wherever he fucking started. That's fucking bad. I feel horrible about myself after watching that. It is such a bad. That exists on the fucking internet. We gotta fucking strike that.
Scrub it.
And the Rob Delaney bit.
Wow.
Should be put in a fucking black box and sent to the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. Those are two sets that are fucking garbage. His was a lot worse because it was televised.
Yeah.
That's fucking bad.
Yeah.
And now I want to go back to some of my hour specials, the early stuff, and see how fucking atrocious it was. Because, oh my fucking God.
Can your producer like report that or something to get it taken down?
I'd hire a
Mark
fucking
S.
birthday clown to come and entertain a crowd before that kid ever fucking again. Like a bicycle, just fucking, oh my God, I can't believe I had to see that. Thank you guys for unearthing that.
Wow.
Jesus Christ, that's like
Dude,
a
you're-
doll, like Annabelle.
Yeah.
Like you should put it away somewhere, never to be seen again. Never to be seen
Yeah,
again.
dig a hole in the earth, put concrete
Exactly,
on it.
yeah.
Yeah.
No one should be privy to that.
That's brutal. So you didn't even know that was out there. Do you
I didn't know that was
do you
out there.
remember doing that material?
Yeah, now that I'm watching this, I remember that bit, garbage.
Yeah.
I remember that bit, awful. I remember that bit, fucking awful. And it's again, it's
Yeah.
like taking accountability of like looking back at past hours,
Right.
and going, okay, what are you doing wrong here? You
Yeah.
know. And it's all happened in the last 7 years where I'm like recalibrating and reevaluating my own life. So this was a fun episode to shit on myself.
This is brutal. This is quite
Yeah.
quite the podcast you have here.
I think I'm going to get in a car that's repossessed and let them take it, and not contact Sue the Collector.
I'm just glad we don't have one of my clips up there. Like, thank God. Whew, this was fun for me.
Well, dude, I appreciate it as always.
Thanks
Josh
for having
Kuderna. Josh, where can they keep up with you?
Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Josh Kuderna. So I'm trying to post clips every Monday, sketch, stand
That's right,
up.
yeah.
Yeah, so I'm trying to
I've
do
seen
that.
more on your socials. You're
Yep.
more active, and obviously you're hitting the road.
Yeah.
Opening for a lot of friends. Dusty
Yep.
Slay.
Yep.
We gotta start working together again
Yes,
as I
sir.
get more dates. But
Yeah.
I love Josh Kuderna. I love working with him. Young comic, fresh to the scene. Keep up with him. As always, thank you everybody for watching Comedy Pinata. This was fucking painful. Yikesies.
Dude,
Okay.
with the lights and stuff, this feels like a CIA exercise, kind of. This is like
They should
with
make
him
every
behind-
comic
Yeah.
sit there and watch your early shit and just go, well, what do you think? And everybody would just go, oh my God, this is fucking awful. But like Mark Norman, we saw an early clip, fucking great joke.
Yeah.
Kevin's jokes. There's like flashes of like brilliance there. And then Segura, it's like, it's all there.
Yeah, this feels like
Even
an
Louis.
MK Ultra thing with the lights, the way it's on you. Like if you were on acid and you had to watch that, you would kill yourself, right? Like the way, and these guys laughing in the dark. It's like, what's happening?
I just may kill
And they're
myself.
not laughing with you. They're
laughing at me.
They're laughing at you.
At my pain.
I can't
Yeah.
believe you've done this to yourself.
I should walk off on my own show.
On your own
all right.
show.
Thank you guys.
Cut.
That was great.